Welcome to this new episode of Drops of Enlightenment. And in this new episode, Caroline and I will explore for you what happens when cosmos goes into full unfolding, into full enlightenment. And this episode is a sequel to the very first video in this podcast. So you will see that it ended quite abruptly, and this is the sequel of it.
So we were talking about that you see that the cosmos as a tree of life and it comes to its full fruition and it collects its fruits. So it can know who it is. It knows every aspect of itself. That's the purpose. But what happens then? Can you describe that?
What is that unfolding? Why are we talking about cosmic unfolding? So indeed, cosmos is a sphere of light. It is a world. It is an entity. It is a light being. It has a sphere of light, which is its body, its light body. A sphere of light is a light body, but in its fullness, not just like an aura, which is a very tiny fractal of that entire sphere of light. And in that sphere of light of cosmos, there is so much to unfold. So she has so many divine potentials that she needs to bring into fruition, as you said. And I use the metaphor of an apple tree, in the sense that an apple tree lives for many, many, many years, and each year gives us lots of fruits. But at a certain moment, all seeds have grown, all apples have come into fruition, and the tree slowly is old and starts to go into a resting phase because it has reached its completion. And that same metaphor, but in the sense of cosmic seasons, can be applied to cosmos light being, that I also refer to as the cosmic Buddha, the great Buddha. And so when cosmos fully develops, all the branches, when that tree is fully branched, so that there are no open spaces anymore, there are many branches, many sub branches, many leaves, many apples, divine potentials emerging each season. At a certain point, each apple or each divine potential that has arisen, although it is manifested into that cosmos light being's awareness, it also immediately is encoded as a divine potential, as a deeper inner knowingness of cosmos itself. Now, please know that everything that I am saying about cosmos also applies to you. You are your own inner cosmic sphere of light. It is an aspect of your of your wholeness. It is a dimensional layer. It is a cosmic layer. So the same metaphor applies to you. So the more you bring into fruition your divine potentials at a certain point by manifesting them, and it doesn't mean in the outer world, but for yourself, coming into the realization of who you truly are, you encode them. And at a certain point, you have encoded all your apples, all your divine potentials.
Is it because we talked about it in another video about the dark matter? So it's the unseen that is made seen. This is
Yes, yes,
like this you develop your divine potentials.
exactly. Yeah, and I related it to the moon codes, one of my enlightenment modules that brings everything from the unseen to the seen. The divine potentials for cosmos, for you, they come to the seen, so that you are aware of it, and so you come to know who you are. Now, why is that so important for us to do that, and for cosmos itself? And then I will refer to the cosmological clock as a metaphor, but it's important. Imagine that cosmos light being is a cosmological clock. Me, you, we are cogwheels of that greater clock. Now, as soon as all our divine potentials come into manifestation in our inner world or in the outer world that you can view around yourself, that doesn't matter. They just need to come into your awareness. At that point, what happens is that you fine tune your vibration. Every time that you know something additional about yourself, you come into a deeper self realization, your vibration changes and you start to embody your true innate vibration. And at that moment, the cogwheel that you represent in that bigger whole of the cosmological clock just finds its exact position to fit in the greater whole, and you contribute to the greater concept of evolution.
Mhm.
Because
Can you
you're
also say you're in, because you said you become more your innate self, so more your authentic self aligned with your higher self.
yes, you understand what your authenticity is. You come to understand your authentic vibration. And if you understand your authentic vibration, it means that you fully know what your strengths are or your vulnerabilities, what your potentials are, what you're good at, who you are, who you're not. Um, you also dissolve all illusions of realities that you are not. So you live only in one reality, and that is your truth.
Hmm. So you can
Um,
also say you let go of the ego
fully,
fully. Hmm.
fully. Yeah, you let go of the ego fully.
But
Um,
then did fully letting go, it's already the completion phase. But
it is.
as I understand, you said like it happens in steps.
Mhm.
Every time, because you say every time you know an unseen aspect of yourself, you make it seen. you're
Yeah.
not you're not there yet to that completion, but it all already works, the
Mhm.
cogwheel, when you take these little steps.
Well, the
Or
cockerel is not really inserted into the cosmological clock because the vibration doesn't match. You cannot plug it in, literally, because your vibration doesn't match. Your vibration only matches into the greater whole if you embody your unique vibration. And that's the thing. Yes, you release your ego, or another way of putting it is your ego is fully infused with your divine light, so that your ego is a fully transparent vessel of your divine light being, of your truth, of your authentic voice, your authentic beingness. Um,
mhm. That's the divine human actually. But then
yeah,
you're at the last step. You came to in completion, that you fully know yourself. So only then you're in this one vibration, and this makes this cogwheel work into the whole.
yeah, exactly. For the on a cosmic level. So there
Hmm.
are levels even beyond that, but we're talking about cosmos light being, what happens when the cosmos unfolds. And the same thing, of course, applies to us, that we complete that cosmic level and we move into source field consciousness. This is completion on a cosmic level, and there are levels beyond, such as a source field level, and of course, the complete I am presence as sphere of light. Um, and so when cosmos completes its unfolding, what happens is it releases its form. So cosmos has a sphere of light, and that sphere of light, in my book, The Enlightenment Codes, I drew it with herringbones because I truly felt that the sacred geometry was herringbones. And so as soon as cosmos unfolds, the at the top, the herringbones structures, the vertical meridians, so to speak, those bands, they release, and she releases her form. And every time that those bands start to delate, the horizontal bands, they drop, and all the wisdom gathered, it goes into the trunk or into the cosmic heart, the divine heart. So in the end, we are here to collect all our wisdom codes, and all our wisdom codes or our light codes, we can only collect them by fully bringing into manifestation, inner or outer, our divine potentials, all that we are. And if we do that and we show creation, then creation knows, okay, so that is also me because I created her. That is a soul that I brought into being. And what she is showing is teaching me who I am. This is the same thing when we have children, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Mm, our children, when they are developing themselves and getting to know themselves, we start to see personality traits or character or characteristics, and that puts another light on us, and our children may do things differently than we did, but it means we have those potentials as well. So yeah, we could compare it with that as well. So
Mm-hmm.
actually everything that we do, we contribute to creation.
Yes, so that relates to the video we did about the dark matter also, because what you say is, cosmos created you, or creation created you. Can you say that? And these creations are,
Mhm.
it looks like it's infinite, but actually it's finite. And also the creation on itself can create further, and this is also finite, but it looks infinite because there's so many possibilities.
Yeah,
um,
it's infinite creation in a field of finite form, basically. And just to come back to something you said, yes, cosmos kind of created us. Cosmos gave us the prima mater, the sacred geometry in our soul's constitution, to be able to function in this cosmic reality.
mhm,
Cosmos didn't create the core of our soul.
mm,
We created that ourselves. We are our own God at that level because we just wanted to exist. We wished to exist, and that is why we are here. And when we move into worlds like this cosmic reality or this earthly, dense reality, we adopt the form that is valid for that reality. And to adopt a form that is valid, we need to have the sacred geometry to back that form up, which is the
mhm,
blueprints, of course.
mhm. So can you say, because you talk about sacred geometry, that every cosmos has its finite amount of sacred geometry to build with, and this is the this includes the number of things to know, that it knows it can know itself as a whole. So
So, but
actually the can't really say it's building blocks, because it's the building blocks are the matter of
mhm.
this reality, but the possibilities how you can use these building blocks, this is finite. It's a bit like Lego or something. Lego, I don't know. That you have, it looks like you have infinite possibilities, but somewhere it ends. And
Yes,
then it knows all its possibilities and it knows itself.
then it comes into full self realization. It realizes everything about self. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So I think your question is what is the finite and the infinite aspect, because it's very dual, right? Finite, infinite, about this
Mm-hmm.
cosmic reality on the level of sacred geometry. So in this cosmos, you have different segments. You have the lower segments, the middle segments, and the higher segments. In the higher segments, we tend to call them the divine verses. In the middle segments, left and right, there is one part where ascension and descension processes occur, and the other part is where there is no learning curves anymore. It is a pathway to move towards the divine verses. And the lower segments, they have a different energy. It's a little bit denser, but altogether very very pleasant.
But in the
So
higher segment is is there also ascension and descension?
No, the higher
Mm,
segments, these are the divine verses. There is no there is no ascension and descension processes. When you move to these higher verses, you actually don't need to ascend anymore, because you actually manage to obtain a level of cosmic consciousness that allows you to co-create with cosmos, to take care of her body, to promote further evolution for all the beings that are still present within cosmos. So you kind of become a co-creative partner of cosmos. And in those higher segments, in those divine verses, also you can find there the cosmic oceanic waters. That's at least the name that I have given it. And when I tuned into to these waters, I saw lots of aquatic cosmic beings, like huge whale-like animals, mermaid-like animals. So they truly exist. Their essence is also a part of a cosmic greater reality. They are not just present on Earth. They are a cosmic reality. And so what they do in these oceanic waters, in those divine verses, is by sound, they continue to create sacred geometry, new sacred geometry, but with a certain coding that is valid for this cosmos. So the coding is finite because it has been determined, it has a form. And within that form, they continue to recreate new sacred geometric patterns, so that I would say the new apples that are still to come in the future seasons, they have the blueprint to come into being. If those beings in these aquatic waters, um, they do not generate or create the sacred geometry of future development, evolution cannot occur. And that is when you go into ascension processes, and at a certain point you leave the segment, you move into the segment just besides, on that same level, you start to adapt your frequency in a very centered way. So you won't go up and down in these ascension and descension vortices anymore, but you find a deep level of calmness, of peace, of self-realization, to then move to the upper segments. It is not easy to move in these segmental layers. I made one module, which is the cosmic heart, because it requires very specific codings. Not many beings on earth have the possibility to go there in these divine verses. And so the cosmic heart actually ignites that, just for information for the viewer. So yes, I would say that the kind of sacred geometry that can be created is finite. And the amount of apples that one creates is also finite. But even on an apple layer, even within a divine potential, one can go deeper and deeper. Why? Because evolution never stops, and cosmos also waits for us to be ready to fully unfold, because she's waiting for all vibrations to just be very authentic and pure, so that they can plug in into her greater system, and that she can find her pure vibration. And from that perspective, she can infinitely create within the preset forms that are valid. And this
Mm-hmm.
means that there is also no competition. There is no, oh, I'm quicker, I'm doing it better. That's not true. We only need to do one thing, is to find our pure vibration. And as soon as we are ready. But we have to wait. It's not that we can leave this. Well, we can, but most of us don't. We can leave when we go into the I am presence levels, we can leave, we can stop that evolutionary flux and move into the I am present state of being, and then actually walk alongside that evolutionary flux, but we don't engage in it. We don't participate it anymore. But these are choices. These are
Mm-hmm.
choices that every soul makes. You know, in my work with participants of the Venus Light, for instance, there have been souls that just didn't want to really come into this cosmos. They just followed the general flux of group consciousness, but they actually just wanted to stay at the divine verse levels, even beyond this cosmic scope. So when they move into I am presence embodiment, they no longer want to engage in the evolutionary flux of cosmos. They said they step aside and they follow their own evolutionary flux of their unique soul, which is also very, very important to do.
Mm-hmm. Um,
But this can
just
only
re-
happen when you go into that full unfolding. Yeah.
so because in a lot of um, belief systems, it's so that they believe that once you come to completion, that you dissolve into the all. Where can you fit in this? Because I don't hear any dissolving. I hear you follow your own evolutionary flux. So it means you don't dissolve into the all.
No, but I think with dissolving, when you say that, and I track the energy of it, of what it truly means, what I feel is they dissolve and they actually embody the knowingness of that all, whatever that means, you know, at their level, at the level that we are on an illusion based reality. We come to understand the whole, and we actually embrace it and um, fall together with it. So we embody that consciousness level. That to me means dissolving.
Mm.
But there are many, many, many layers that you can fall into, of
Hmm.
course, because you are very expansive as a being of light.
So that's actually something that is misunderstood, the dissolving. But because if you say dissolve, there's no I anymore. You just float into, you don't have the I anymore. But actually, you don't have the I in the sense of the ego. That's something else. So
Well,
maybe this is what they call dissolving, because you have all the
probably,
knowledge of
yeah.
everything, you take it in,
The I
you
actually, I'm sorry, the I actually shifts from the ego to the cosmic ego, because the ego is the expression of that level of consciousness, is the vessel. So the ego, we as a human have an ego, and the point is that we fully infuse it with our light, and we express our light, our truth, who we truly are. And so when we have done that and we dissolve with that cosmic whole, we move to an I am presence level, and that becomes our ego. And that is why in self-realization processes, you kind of go into an emotional neutrality, because the ego is not there. It has shifted into an I am presence level.
yes, that's the I, what they call the I. It's the
Yeah.
higher self, actually.
Some level of higher self. Yeah. There is no one higher self. There are many levels. There are
Okay, and so
many
what?
realities that we need to unveil.
Oh, that's something new. What is? Let's talk about that. What do you mean? Because this is new. There are many higher selves, because the tendency is to believe there's only one higher self.
There is the core soul and the expression of who you in the most pure form are. But as soon as you expressed your wish to exist, and you pass through the portal of creation, you receive strings of light and you come into existence. And then you choose what you want to do. You can move into manifestation in worlds, such as this cosmos or other worlds, in whatever layer of cosmos, on a planetary layer like we are, on a star layer, in more an etheric form, or you can remain in the divine verses, or you can also not move into cosmos. But whatever layer you choose, that has a dimensional level, and that dimensional level is represented by a higher self. There is a cosmic higher self, which is your cosmic light being. You have a planetary light being. You have many light beings that are, I would say, representations of who you are, and they all have their own reality.
Mm-hmm.
They
So
all,
actually,
yeah,
so it's you can say actually that these higher selves are also extensions of the one core that you are as a soul.
yeah, that's true. And every extension lives in a certain reality and thus carries certain illusions that it needs to really manifest itself in that reality. And for instance, in my work with people, we unveil each illusion of each reality to come to that pure um, vibrational knowingness. Yeah.
So but actually it's misunderstood because you split this higher self, which is actually the core of your being. They call it the higher self, but there's actually more higher selves. It's a bit the same when they say like, yeah, there's one God, but this God, it's the same. It's the higher self of this cosmos.
Yeah.
That is God who creates. That's what who we call God, but there's still something beyond.
Yeah. Like
It's a
they
bit
say,
confusing.
Elohim. It's
Yeah.
like the Elohim. It is said they created light. Yes, they did, but they created it in this segment of cosmos. If you go beyond, um, they weren't at the throne of that reality. And same thing is also for awakening processes. I see many times people write, I awakened. Yeah, but in what, in what frequency, on what level?
Mm-hmm.
What veil did you lift it? What illusion did you pierce?
Mm-hmm.
um if you understand the vastness, the intricacy, and the complexity of a soul, then on what level are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you awaken on a certain level, and you live in the illusion that you're done,
Mm-hmm.
and the consciousness of the other layers comes in, then you fall back,
Mm.
and you fall
Yeah,
back
that's
into the same old patterns again and
yeah.
again and again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the thing. Maybe we should make another episode about that because there's much to talk about this topic
Yeah, there are many
of the.
layers of consciousness, realities, illusions of trauma, many layers of trauma that keep triggering fractal wise into dense matter. So we keep falling into the same patterns.
Yes, and not only that, but also like what is God? What do we mean with that? Because you said the Godhead. Um, yeah, because there's different realities, there's different higher selves. And how do we know the difference? Because it looks like it's also just a fractile of the whole that we are chasing. And then we think, yeah, we are complete now, but it's not.
Well,
So it's
that
very,
is
very
that's
interesting.
the illusion and the veil. That's a ceiling. We think we attained a certain level. It gives us a certain amount of bliss, etc. And we cannot see beyond because
Hmm.
there is the veil and there is a ceiling.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, and I
so
think in one of our episodes, I don't think it's already online, we talked about this veil that is around the cosmic field that makes us, yeah, trapped in an, yeah, in a ceiling,
Yeah,
that we can't go
it
further
was in
than
this
this
segment of cosmos. Yeah. In
segment.
this segment of cosmos, there have been a lot of cosmic wars. There have been wars on Earth, huh? Duality, but there have been a lot of cosmic wars in this segment of cosmos too. A lot of duality in between star people. And to some extent, there is a plasma sphere where you could say, okay, it's an illusion, but it's really not. It's really present. It depends on your vibration if you still are inclined to be under that vibration. Why do I say be? Because if you align to those frequencies, then you are in a consciousness of lack, of fear, even on a cosmic layer. So we talk about biographical trauma, ancestral trauma, transgenerational trauma, but even doing that, it doesn't actually dissolve the greater patterns that we as human beings struggle with. And so we always fall back. And so that field that you just mentioned is something that all souls on earth have had to deal with. And so it's very important to detach from it, to raise your frequency, to understand that that is an illusionary field, that is a detrimental entanglement. Yeah,
Yeah, we can make another episode about that, because
sure.
yeah, I think for now we had enough. Um, but I would love to speak about the cosmic Buddha, because you mentioned that you see cosmos as a cosmic Buddha. But this we will do in another episode. So what
All right.
can we conclude for now?
So to wrap it up for today, what is important is that we know as within, so without, as cosmos evolves, also we evolve. Our evolution is important for the greater whole. And in that evolution, finding our pure and core vibration is essential. And that an awakening is not the end of a self realization process. This is just one step of a process. And that one must be mindful to the veils and the ceilings that are present within an awakening process, even beyond
Hmm.
cosmic scope.
Yes. Um, can you say that this awakening, what we see as an awakening today on Earth, is actually coming into the 5D, the Christ consciousness?
Some go into 5D, some go into 6D. It remains all very linear. You're doing the cosmic journey. You're doing a linear ascension process, even if you do it on a multiple scale. So even if you're activating your 5D consciousness, 6D, 70, 8D, or 12D, you're at a certain point walking a linear journey. Yeah. While you could go more into a quantum journey, which is what I do in Venus Light Technology, it is different. Uh,
Hmm.
it just brings you off that journey of that pathway.
So, so what we understand by awakening is actually that you find access to your heart, that this opens, and that you are more connected to your partly higher self, then let's call it, but also to the whole, that you see and feel that we are a whole, and that's how you're gonna function in it, that
Yes,
you are moved by your heart and not by your lower frequencies, like you and I, that you really can see that we are a whole, and if I harm myself, I harm you, and the other way around. So this is just a part of awakening, because we think it's an, like it's the end. When we are awakened, then we are having the full completion. But
Well,
as you said,
maybe
it's
maybe for some it's for now good, and for them it's the end, because
mm-hmm,
that is what they want to do.
mm-hmm,
It depends from soul to soul how far you want to go. If you want to go for a full enlightenment, or if you want to gain certain levels of consciousness and self-realization. Yeah.
yeah, and also um, it's good for the time being. Like in the time we are now, the collective, it's the highest. It's not the highest, but it's like it's more than enough for now. You follow this collective flux, or the flux of the earth, the evolutionary flux of the earth,
Mhm.
because we are now in 5D. You adapted, you're awakened in this 5D, and this feels right, this feels complete.
Yeah, for them. For
Mm-hmm,
each individual, it's very subjective. You
mm-hmm,
fluctuate somewhere in some octaves of the 5 dimensions, or even the higher octaves of the 6 dimensions, maybe some the higher octaves of the 7th dimension, which is more moon consciousness.
mm-hmm.
But it remains in in a general energetic space of ascension and descension, which means linear
Yes,
growth, a path
yeah,
to do, a journey to do. It doesn't
mm-hmm,
allow you to come into full inner knowingness. Um, and that makes one always seeking, because there's a ceiling, so something is not complete, and that's the call of the I am, says, okay, but there's something more, something more. And
mm-hmm,
although we already awaken and we are more blissful, still something doesn't feel just right.
mm-hmm.
I think that is how I could express it, my best.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, Sabrina, that was a very nice chat. Thank you for your information.
And thank you as well. And we'll see each other again in the next episode that speaks about the cosmic Buddha.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.